Good evening, friends. In the last lecture, we have seen the syllabus, examination scheme, teaching scheme, the number of credits for this particular subject. Then we uh, have gone through the course objectives, what the standards, what the students are expected to do. Then after that we have seen the course outcomes, so what the students should be able to do after learning the contents. And then starting with actual unit number 1, we have seen what is meaning of metrology and what are the say objectives of metrology. Then we have gone through the different basic elements of the measuring system. Then we have seen the characteristics of measuring instrument, means various terminology related to a particular measuring instrument, and what are expectations from a measuring instruments, that we have gone through in the last lecture. Now moving further, we'll see what are the principles of engineering metrology. Many a times this question is asked, what are the principles of engineering metrology. So basically there are three principles of engineering metrology. The first one is a scientific metrology. So if you closely see the name of this metrology, it is a scientific, means whatever measurements are carried out, the objective of carrying out these measurements is to validate the theories of nature and enhance basic knowledge about science and nature. So many times we have gone through various laws which are which are discovered by various scientists like Newton, Einstein, and many more. So these scientists have designed their theories and they have enhanced our basic knowledge. So they have done some kind of measurement during their research, during their theories. So such type of metrology is called as a scientific metrology. So any kind of measurement which is carried to validate the theories of nature and enhance the basic knowledge about the science and nature is called as a scientific metrology. Then second one, that is a technical metrology. So word technical here is important. Here the measurements are related to establishment of units, accuracy of measurement, and method of measurement. So we can say that if anybody discovers any kind of say particular measurement, then for that particular measurement unit has to be established. If you want to determine the accuracy of measurement, then you carry out some kind of measurements. Then method of measurement, so if you carry out your measurements in these areas, then it is called as a technical metrology. Then third one is called as a legal metrology. It is here the word legal is important, means what it does, it treats units, method of measurement in relation to legal requirements. Here the word relation to legal requirements is very important, because many a times you have to say you have to say work as per the legal requirements, and in order to fulfill those legal requirements you have to say carry out some kind of measurements, then that kind of measurements is called as a legal metrology. Then second one, that is a it assures the security and accuracy of measurement. Means it 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 assures the anybody about the security and accuracy. Means if somebody is selling, say, some kind of you can say health product, so where the contents let us take example, if you go to buy a medicine in the at the chemist, then in that particular say medicine, some in each medicine the contents are given, and contents and their percentage are given. So here the percentage of the contents is very important thing, and those percentage of the contents are measured with some kind of instrument. So it is directly related to your health, isn't it? It is directly related to your security. So legal metrology assures these things as well as it assures the accuracy of measurements. Let us take example of buying a bag of milk. Okay, so if you go to a local say shop and you say that give me 1 liter of say milk. So whenever you are saying the word 1 liter, that is very important, because when you say 1 liter of quantity, that must be 1 liter exactly 1000 ml, isn't it? So it ensures, so it ensures the accuracy of that say you can say 1 liter of bag. Then third one, it is directed by National Service of Legal Metrology, that is NSLM. So actually legal metrology works under this particular organization NSLM. So what are the functions of this NSLM? So the functions of NSLM is conservation of national standards. So we are going to see this in detail. What are the national standards? What are the say international standards? Then secondary standards, working standards. All these we are going to see. So in each secondary there are some national standards which are used to calibrate the secondary standards. So it is the object, it is the say function, it is the you can say responsibility of the NSLM to conserve these national standards. Okay, then second, impart accuracy to secondary standards by comparison with international standards. So national standards are derived from the international standards, and these national standards are going to impart the accuracy to a secondary standards. It compares the things with international standards. Then third is testing of prototypes. So many times prototypes are developed by various say organizations, and testing of the prototypes is carried out by such NSL by National Service of Legal Metrology. So one of the example of the testing of prototype is say ARAI. In ARAI, it is basically related with the testing of various say test rigs related to automobile industries. So and it is a authorized one. So if you want to validate something, or if you want to measure something related to automotive industry, then ARI will test the prototype prepared by you, and they will give you the certification. So that is the these are the functions of the National Service of Legal Metrology. Then what are the applications, means where this legal metrology is used? this legal metrology has a applications in commercial transaction. That's what we just discussed, that is a net quantity. So I have given you the example of the 1 liter of the milk. Since it is commercial, because you are paying for 1 liter of the milk, so it is a commercial trade. So legal metrology will come into picture. If that particular bag of the milk is not of 1000 milliliter, you are free to lodge a complaint against the service provider. So and you can take the legal action. That's why it comes under the legal metrology. Then industrial measurements, that is a proper control on accuracy of measurements to ensure interchangeability to promote the mass production. So here many times various kinds of industrial measurements are done. So this legal metrology controls the accuracy of measurements to ensure interchangeability to promote the mass production. So if you want to promote the mass production, interchangeability has to be there, and in order to ensure interchangeability, legal metrology comes into picture. Then third one, measurements needed for ensuring public health and safety. So this is very important. Whatever kind of measurements that are being carried out for ensuring the public health and safety. Just I have given you the example of the, say in any kind of medicine. So medicine is directly related with the public health, so this will come under the legal metrology. Again, safety, you can take the example of the speed gun. We can see that whenever you are going, say from Mumbai to Pune on express highway, there are some boards are written regarding to ensure that there is not over speeding of your vehicle. So it is said the maximum speed should be 100 km per hour or 80 kilometers per hour. So if the traffic constables have the speed gun, and with the help of the speed gun they can measure the speed of your vehicle. So here again the measurement of the speed comes into picture, and since it is directly related to human safety, this will also come into the under the legal metrology. So these are the some of the examples of the applications of the legal metrology. This question is very important, that is the principles of engineering metrology. Many times this question is asked in the examination. Then moving further, that is types of the measuring instruments. One second. So various types of the, again this question is important from exam point of view. There are various types of the measuring instruments, and these instruments have to be classified under some heads. So let us start one by one. That is a contact and non-contact type measuring instruments. So whatever instruments measuring instruments are there, they can be classified under this head, that is a contact type and non-contact type. So in as the name indicates, in case of contact type measuring instrument, there is a contact between measuring instrument and the workpiece to be measured. So n number of examples are there, which are very simple. For example, the scale that you students use, then dial gauge indicator. You might have seen the whenever you are when you want to inflate the tube of your vehicle, then that pressure gauge is also the example of contact type of the measuring instrument. Then non-contact type instrument. In this case, there is a no direct contact between the measuring instrument and the workpiece to be measured. So for example, one of the example is the stroboscope. As you can see, this is the stroboscope. So we are going to see what is this stroboscope. Stroboscope is used to measure the frequency basically, or it is used to measure the speed. So you can measure the speed of the fan which is running in your home. So if you want to measure the speed of the fan, you can either use the, so whatever component is rotating, the speed of that rotating component can be measured with the help of say tachometer or stroboscope. But in case of the tachometer, you have to there should be contact between the tachometer and the shaft, isn't it? So stroboscope can be used to measure the speed of that particular say shaft or say speed of the fan. Then second type of the measuring instrument, that is a direct and indirect contact type. So in case of the direct direct type measuring instruments means you can get the measurement of the whatever thing you are measuring. That measurement you can get directly without assistance of without the need of any other say instrument. For example, we have the scale is example, then micrometer, vernier caliper. These are the some of the example of the direct direct measuring instruments. Then in case of the indirect measuring instruments, measuring instruments need the help of other direct measuring instruments to obtain the dimension. So these instruments are used to transfer the measurement from the workpiece to the direct measuring instrument for the reading. Examples are different types of the say spring calipers are there, then sine bar. I'm going to show you some of the photos of these instruments, so you will see this in the next few slides. So caliper, sine bars, these are the instruments which cannot give you the reading directly. You will require some other instruments to get the measurement. Okay. In general, we can say that direct measurement is faster, while indirect measurement may be more accurate. So that can this point can be taken into consideration. Then deflection output or null output type measuring instruments. So in case of the deflection type of the instruments, for example, we can see there is a dial gauge is there, then pressure gauge is there, ammeter is there. So what happens in case of the deflection type of the measuring instruments? Whenever you try to take the say measurement, there is a deflection in the display section of the instrument. Means the magnitude of the physical variable which is being measured is indicated by the deflection of the pointer. So as you can see, for example, again we will take the example of the pressure gauge. So if let us take the example of the inflating the tire, inflating the the tube of your vehicle tire with air. So as the air is as the tire is inflated, its pressure increases, and as you attach attach that pressure gauge with the tire, the pointer in the pointer of that pressure gauge, it will move, isn't it? So this is one of the example of of the deflection type. Then various, we have seen the ammeter is there, then you might have seen the dial gauge, mechanical dial gauge is there. So all these are the example of deflection type of the instruments. Then second one is a null output type instruments. Null output type instruments, the examples are the balances, pyrometer. So in these instruments, the deflection or the physical effect which is caused by the measurement, it is balanced by an equivalent opposing effect which is produced by a known quantity. Means you are trying to balance the things. So you might have seen these balances. Right now there are electronic balances are there, but in old, say in a few years back, say 20 years back, when there were not electronic balances were not there, in those days there were the mechanical balances. So there were two still these are used in some of the say grocery shops. So whatever quantity is being measured, it is balanced by the opposing, its equivalent opposing effects by a known quantity, isn't it? So balances. And pyrometer is another example. Pyrometer is a device which is used to check the temperatures, generally the higher temperatures, especially in the say foundries where the temperature is more than say 1200 1400. So high degree temperatures are measured with the help of these pyrometers. So this then you can see, let us see the photographs of the some of the instrument. This is the dial gauge. So this comes under the deflection type of the instrument. So as you can see here, this is called as the plunger of the dial. So whatever movement is sensed, that movement is magnified and that is shown by this particular pointer. So this is a deflection type of the measuring instruments. It is a mechanical, you can say it is a comparator. It is called as a comparator also. Then this is the example of the stroboscope. So these are the photographs of the instrument that we have just discussed. The stroboscope, I told you, it is used to measure the speed of the rotating element. So this is a non-contact type measuring instrument. So as you can see, this is the stroboscope, and this is the display unit of the stroboscope, and this stroboscope is trying to measure the speed of this particular say particular component. So here it is a basically it is a non-contact type measuring instrument. So the frequencies are matched, and whatever is the speed of this particular say particular component, that is shown in the display section. So in this section that speed is shown. So this is called as a stroboscope. Then outside micrometer. So this is a contact type measuring instrument. So this is called outside micrometer. You are going to come across this instrument number of times. So as you can see, the work is held between the anvil and the spindle. So there is a contact between the workpiece and the measuring instrument. That's why it is called as a contact type measuring instrument. So then this vernier caliper, again you have, all of you have, I think you have seen this either at the diploma level or in the 12th science class. So again, this is similar to the micrometer. These are the two faces of this vernier caliper, and the workpiece is held between these two jaws. These are the, one is a fixed jaw, another is a movable jaw. So the work is held between these two say faces, and whatever is this gap, that is measured over here in this case. So this is main scale, this is a vernier scale, and various parts are there. So then this is the sign bar. So this instruments comes under the indirect contact type measuring instruments. This whatever these calipers or outside micrometer, inside or vernier caliper, these are direct measuring instruments, direct measuring instruments. But this sign bar is the indirect type of the measuring instruments. Basically this sign bar is used to measure the angle of a tapered say component. So as you can see, this is the work part to be measured as shown here. This is, you can say it is shown in say sky blue color. So this is the workpiece whose angle is to be measured. This is the sign bar. So this sign bar is not going to give you the direct. There is no scale over here. You cannot see a scale over here anywhere. So to take the readings, you will require this length. So this length is fixed, and one arrangement is there, and this is the say pile of the slip gauges or gauge blocks. So you will require this distance h, this distance l, and with the help of these two parameters you can find out this angle a. Okay, so this instrument does not give you the reading directly, some kind of calculations, and these gauge blocks are required. That's why it is called as a indirect type measuring instrument. Then spring calipers. So again these are indirect measuring instruments. You can see, you might have seen this in the workshop, and this is called as a outside spring caliper, this is called as the inside spring caliper, and this is generally used to mark the distances. So basically these are you might have seen this is being used by the various carpenters to mark the distances, or in fabrication shop. So here the accuracy is not in this case, the accuracy is not important, because whatever component you are measuring, these components will be measured. As you can see, the application of the spring caliper, in this case the objective is to measure the inside diameter of this particular component. So what you are doing with the help of this particular inside micrometer, as you can see, this is a inside spring caliper. So this is used. So you can see this is used, and this will be transferred to the scale, and with the help of a scale you can measure this distance. This distance is transferred to the scale and it is measured. Then the spring calipers will come into indirect measuring instruments. Then I was talking about these balances. So balance, everybody has seen this. It is a null output type instruments. So in many grocery shop, still some of the it is used in some of the grocery shops. So whatever you want to buy, you have to put here, and it is balanced by the weights, that is 1 kg, 2 kg, and when the pointer here, when it is exactly at the center, then you can come to know what is the exact weight of the unknown quantity. So on one side there is unknown quantity, on other side there is a known quantity, and it has to be exactly balanced. So the pointer here will come exactly at the center. Then optical pyrometer, I have told you, this is basically, it is like a stroboscope. It is used to measure the high degree temperatures, as I told you, in the foundries. So where the temperature is very high, 1200 1400 degree temperature. So it is important from safety point of view also. Optical pyrometers are used. So these were some of the pictures of the various types of the measuring instruments. Still few types of the instruments are there, that is automatic and manually assisted type measuring instruments. So in automatic type of measuring instruments, the pressure gauges are there. So in case of the automatic pressure gauges, you are not automatic instruments, you are required to, you are not required to do anything. There is a no manual intervention at all. For example, pressure gauge, you have to just uh, attach that pressure gauge to the workpiece and it will give you the reading directly. Nothing is to be done. Or you can say thermometer is there, so thermometer measures the body temperature, so you have to do nothing. You have to just have a contact with that thermometer and it will give you the reading. So no manual intervention. Whereas in case of the manually assisted type measuring instruments, they need the manual assistance, like setting and doing the manipulations. Manipulations means you have to do some kind of calculations, and then only you are going to get the result. So that is the automatic and manually assisted type instruments. Then self operated and or power operated. So as the name indicates, the instruments which don't require the external source of the power for their operation, they are called as a self operated instruments. For example, micrometer is there, vernier caliper is there, then thermometer is, say our mercury in glass thermometer is there. So all these instruments don't require any external source of the power like electricity or compressed air or compressed fluid. These things are not required for these instruments. That's why they are called as a self-operated instruments. And in case of the power operated instruments, opposite to self operated instruments, in case of the power operated instruments, they will require the external power, like either they will require electricity or they may require the uh, say compressed air, or they may require the compressed fluid. For example, thermocouples are there, then the various types of the comparators are there, electrical comparators are there, optical comparators are there, then uh, say pneumatic comparators are there. So in each comparator, the source of the power is different. So these are the self operated and power operated instruments. Then another type of the instrument, that is say analog and a digital type of the instrument. So and in case of the analog instruments, as you can see, these are the instruments which indicate the variable being measured in terms of the stepless or continuous variation. Okay, so you can there are so many examples are there. So the what you can say, the speedometer, the speedometer of your vehicle. Okay, so there are two types of the speedometers, one is a analog and one is a digital. So in case of the analog speedometer, it shows the reading in stepless variation, whereas in digital, say digital type of the speedometer, you will get the readings like 1 2 3 4 10 15 20. So it is in certain steps. Okay, so in case of the digital type of the uh, instrument, the variable being measured is in terms of the discrete steps. So ADC converter is must, that is a many a times your signal is analog type of the signal, and in modern say computer age, this input is many times it is say it is this this type of the signal is the input for other devices. So computer understands the language of the digital language only. So let for any kind of the analog signal, the in order to convert the analog signal into digital signal, the ADC converter is must, that is analog to digital converter is must. It will convert your analog signal into digital signal so that the computer can understand that particular signal. Then we have gone through the particular say the characteristics of the measuring instruments. Then moving ahead, we'll see the some of the standards of measurement. So what are the standards of measurement? Every time we heard this is standard, that is standard, this is required, purchase the standard components only. So what is the meaning of this particular word, and what is the importance of this word standards? So basically again this question is many times asked in the examination. Standards are nothing but these are used to designate universally accepted specifications for a quantity. It provides a reference to assign a numerical value to a measured quantity. So here the words are important: used to designate or show the universally accepted specifications for a quantity. Whenever you are saying that, whenever you are specifying something, always that quantity is always specified with some kind of unit, and that unit must be say accepted universally. Otherwise there is no meaning to a particular measurement without unit. For example, if you are saying 1 meter, then length, the length of a particular component is say 1 meter. So 1 meter is a standard, and it is universally accepted by all the countries. What is meaning of what is the exact 1 meter length? Okay, so it is a universally accepted specification. So what it does, what is the use? It provides a reference to assign a numerical value to a measured quantity. So if 1 meter length is defined, that can be used to assign a numerical value to other measured quantity. So if you 1 meter, since 1 meter is defined, you have that 1 meter standard, and that standard is now can be used to measure some other quantity. So if you go to purchase say some cloth, then you will say that give me 2 meters of cloth. So how you are going to measure the 2 meters of cloth? So you are going to measure that 2 meters cloth with 1 meter standard. Okay, so you are going to use the 1 meter standard as a reference to measure the length of the 2 meter cloth. Okay, so this is a very important definition. Many times this question is asked, what is meaning of standards? Okay, now classification of standards, that is a international there are 4 types of the standards are there. First is international prototype, second primary standards, third secondary standards, and working standards. So what are these international prototypes? So international prototypes are universally accepted physical representation of the basic unit to which all the measurements are attributed. So as you can see, it is universally accepted physical representation of the basic unit to which all measurements are attributed. So as the definition shows, it is a universally accepted physical representation of basic unit. So let it be basic. There are, as I have told you the example of 1 meter length. So 1 meter length, there is a international prototype of 1 meter length. It is a physical object, okay, and to which all the measurements are attributed. So this international prototype is kept in Paris. Okay, so we'll see that in detail afterwards. Then primary standards. So now the practical difficulty is that you cannot refer the international prototype every time, isn't it? If you want to say, as I told you the example of this international prototype is only one in entire world, and that is at Paris. Okay, So it is in one of the labs of the Paris. So you are going to use this as a reference for your measurements. For example, as I told you that you want to buy the cloth of 2 meter. So if you want to buy the cloth of 2 meter, you are not every time, you are not going to ensure going to go to the Paris to ensure the this particular cloth is of the 2 meter. It is not possible, it is not practical, and it is not economical also, isn't it? So in order to facilitate the day to day activities related to day to day life measurements, the copies of the international prototypes are say prepared, and those are distributed to each country. Okay, so so there comes the concept of the primary standards. So these primary standards are nothing but these are the copies of the international prototype which are kept in the national labs. So primary standards are the copies of this particular international prototype. So there is only one international prototype, say for example 1 meter length prototype is there. So what you are going to do, you are going to make the copies of this international prototype, and say if there are 100 there are 200 countries are in the world, so 200 primary standards are prepared, and those are these 200 copies of the international prototype are referred, which are referred as primary standards, and these are given to 200 countries. So for each country there will be one primary standard of 1 meter length, and that will be kept in the national laboratories. Okay, so these are the stable, invariant, and finite. So it is very important that it is the most important characteristic of the any kind of the standard is that what the standard should be stable, it should be invariant, and it should be finite. The standard should not change its dimension, it should not change its properties over the time, isn't it? So that is very important. That's why they are kept in the national laboratories in very very controlled environmental conditions, because the environmental conditions can change the dimensions, they can change the properties of the any physical object. That's why they are kept in controlled condition under strict surveillance. Okay, so these primary standards are calibrated from the international prototype. So time to time, after say certain interval of the time, these standards are calibrated used from the international prototype. Calibrated means it is calibration means making sure that whatever primary standard is there, it is correct as per the international prototype, because over the time there can be certain difference between primary standard and international prototype. Okay, that difference can be very very less, and the period can be say 10 years, 20 years, it can be there. And then till this discussion we can say that there is only one international prototype in the entire world for each say say attribute, each unit. Then for each country there is one primary standard, which are the copies of the international prototype. Then secondary standards. So again it is not possible every time to go to the national lab of your country to measure something. Suppose our primary standard of the 1 meter length is kept in Delhi in lab. So again it is if you buy something, and it is not possible for every time to go to the Delhi and measure the 2 meter length, isn't it? So again you have to make the copies of the primary standards. So these are called as the secondary standards. So secondary standards, these are calibrated from the primary standards itself. Okay, so secondary standards are copies of the primary standards, and they are kept in measurement laboratories. So you might have seen some calibration laboratories are there. Okay, so some calibration labs are there, some government labs are there. So they are in each say in many cities, these calibration labs are there. If you have visited any MIDC, in many MIDCs calibration labs are there, and that is the requirement. So these calibration labs will have the primary the secondary standards which are kept in measurement labs. Okay, so secondary standards are the copies of the primary standards, and again they are calibrated from the primary standards. Okay, then last one, again it is not possible every time to go to the measurement lab. Okay, so again the copies of the secondary standards are made, and they are known as the working standards, which are actually used by the manufacturing industries. Okay, so every if we want to measure the say length of 2 meter, there is a tape is there in a, you can get those measuring tapes in any kind of hardware say shop. So you can call that particular measuring tape as a working standard, which is directly used by the person, isn't it? So this that measuring tape is available with the say carpenter, that is available with the fabricator, that is available with the plumber. So these are the people which are actually working on the field. So these working standards are say nothing but they are used actually by the manufacturing industries. These working standards are derived from the this particular secondary standards. Now the one statement, that accuracy of the standards, it goes on decreasing from international prototype to working standard. This is very important statement, that the international prototype is the most accurate measuring instruments, but when you try to derive the international prototype, you are deriving this primary standards. So while deriving this primary standards, it is impossible to get the exact replica of the international prototype. So some kind of error is always going to be there, which is say within acceptable limits, isn't it? So you are going to derive the primary standards. When you derive the secondary standards from the primary standards, again there is a scope for the error. See, you cannot 100% say that your instrument is error free. It is impossible to produce the error free instrument. Okay, there are n number of reasons are there. And finally working standards. So as you go from say international prototype to working standard, the accuracy is going to go on decreasing, because at each stage the error is going to be introduced, and that error will go on accumulating, that is going to be called as a cumulative error, and that accuracy will go on decreasing. But it doesn't mean that working standards are of no use. Okay, whatever accuracy is there means some kind of error is there, but that error is known to us. That error is known to us, so that error can be compensated with the help of some other balancing instruments, and we can use the working standards. So today we will stop here, and in the next lecture we are going to see the classification of these standards, the line standard, end standard, then wavelength standard, and the difference between line standard, end standard, and other things. So today we will stop here, and we will continue in the next lecture.